This is modern gaming. Don't be fooled by those who claim it's never been a better time to be a gamer.
But AAA game developers want you to know that this is rockstar level nonsense for scope, that it's foolhardy to set expectations higher, and Baldur's Gate 3 should not be used as a raised standard to RPGs going forward.
There's been a lot of talk about modern gaming recently, with the release of Baldur's Gate 3, and then the multiple Twitter threads from game developers trying to preemptively lower expectations. There are a lot of thoughts and feelings mixed around the state of gaming and game releases. It's tempting to give into easy sentiments about why gaming is different, why it's changed, and then compare. It'd be very easy for me to make a 30-minute rant filled with every cynical, pessimistic thought I have, to point at modern gaming and say bad. But what does that leave us with? Nothing. It's hollow and empty, and it does absolutely nothing to add any value to our lives but to sit in the shit puddle we made for ourselves and cry. Now, I'm plenty negative and pessimistic myself, but after a while, we have to pull ourselves up from the bootstraps. Yeah, I made the joke. Hurdy-dur.
Hurdy-dur. Yeah, hurdy-dur.
The issues most of us feel with modern gaming isn't just some cynical attempt to rob you of your fond childish memories and nostalgia. They're a symptom of a much larger problem: time. I'm going to come back to this point, but first I want to address every meaningful and direct criticism about the state of modern gaming by addressing the entertainment industry as a whole, as well as the rapidly evolving market. In 2017, when Reed Hastings, the then CEO of Netflix, answered a question about who his competitors were, he didn't say Hulu or Amazon or HBO. No, he said sleep. Sleep was the biggest competitor to him and his company, because when you sleep, you can't watch The Office for the 10th time. You can't watch Seinfeld and Better Call Saul. When you're sleeping, you're not binging. You have to remember that gaming as a whole is still in its infancy. It's still an evolving art form that will drastically be different in 20 years, the same way that it was different 20 years ago. I, too, long for the days when I could come home from school and play Kingdom Hearts 2, or get my ass beat and smashed by my cousin and his friends after watching Saturday morning cartoons. Except I don't even think Saturday morning cartoons are a thing anymore. Now we have YouTube and TikTok, and kids can spend hours upon hours scrolling away without ever touching scripted TV content. Which brings me back to my point about time. Games take longer to develop than they ever have before. The expectations of quality for games has never been higher. The amount of genres and types of games we honestly have never had as many games before as we do now. Gaming is one of the fastest growing entertainment industries in the world. Of course, it should be, because gaming is great. I don't have to extol the virtues of gaming and why I love gaming personally. We all have our own defined reasons for why we all love this amazing hobby. But it's not just ours anymore. The audience for gaming has changed. The types of people who play games have begun to change, and the ways we consume media as a whole has changed. Because it was always going to. So even before Reed Hastings declared sleep his number one enemy, the entertainment industry had already been changed forever. They changed the rules, so we went from regular single-player releases to a multiplayer-centric market. And the free-to-play market changed from indie MMORPGs and small-scale shooters to massive blockbusters and games as a service. Because the time, money, and effort required to continue to make games at that evolving scale required the guarantee that people would show up to buy it. Welcome to capitalism. One of the largest, most prominent RPG franchises in the world just released a flop. There is no guarantee of success anymore when it comes to media, because the expectations and attention span of consumers are dwindling and changing. That is just part of the sad truth when it comes to any type of content, including games. The good news is there are more games out there than have ever existed before. So why are you only looking at the largest and biggest releases? We can't go back in time. We can't change things and make them go back. All we can do now is find a new way forward. In the early 2010s, up to about 2016-2017, horror movies were dying. The big tentpole horror releases coming out were not good. Before Get Out revitalized the modern horror landscape, the indie horror scene was the one that thrived. The best horror movies coming out during that time weren't the big studio movies. They were all independent films made by smaller teams, making passion projects. This indie horror scene is how Mike Flanagan got his start. It's how modern horror staples like It Follows, The Babadook, and Hereditary came to be. It's also part of why we even got Get Out to begin with. Because without the re-emergence of elevated horror, we might not have gotten it. All of this is to say, you can't keep expecting an industry set up to make a profit to change to your standards. At some point, you have to break free from the established big publishers and go off the beaten path. Find new games, new genres, smaller games. There are hundreds of new developers popping up every single day, and many of them may not have found you yet. You, the person who found that hidden gem, the game that needed an audience, that needed a player, that just needed a chance. The entertainment industry has changed. We have to stop blaming an industry for changing as it grows, because every industry changes as it grows. That's just part of capitalism. It's part of greed, it's part of growth. Everything wants to be the everything of that business. Uber, the rideshare service. Apple, the phone company. I could go on. And to serve everyone and please everyone, sometimes they just stop pleasing anyone. So it's time to adapt, to change, because the same way they're not the franchises, the games, and companies we remembered fondly, we also aren't those kids playing Halo, or playing Elder Scrolls Oblivion for the first time. I can never go back to Melee, and wake up and play Smash with my cousin on a Saturday morning after cartoons again. Because yeah, AAA games are not the same that they were. But there are so many fucking cool games that just never would have existed back then. And like an emotionally abusive relationship, if you don't like how you feel in it, then maybe it's time to leave. So this is the part where you have to take some responsibility. Not just you, but me as well. We may not have started this, and we definitely weren't in those board meetings where executives pointed at other business models and said, yeah, let's copy that. No. But if you buy FIFA or Madden, then you're part of the problem. If you hate how bad COD has gotten and still buy it, then you're part of the problem. If you continuously buy pre-orders for games, you're part of the problem. If you buy Assassin's Creed and Far Cry and complain it's just the same, then you're part of the problem. How's that for cynical? I could keep going, but I'd rather not. I'd rather go looking for the types of games and experiences that pique my interest elsewhere. If that means I have to go play Dark Souls 3 for the third time, then yeah, I'll go do that. Not because I was forced into it, but because if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna make sure it's gonna make me happy. Otherwise, why do it?